All around the podcasting mic sit the Graham and Ashkahn. The Graham begins to read the questions. Daily solutions.
Okay.
All right.
Hey there,
Hello.
everyone.
How are you?
Howdy. I'm great.
Great. Good.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
I'm Graham,
Yeah, I know that.
and we have a question.
All right, great.
So, living in the Midwest, we have thunderstorms often. What are your thoughts on floating during a thunderstorm? My room has all of the required GFCIs on the electrical. Oh, hold on, I have to scroll.
Big
But
question.
do you think I should cancel float clients during a storm anyway?
All right, so we had to do a little research into this one, mostly because it turns out we are not electricians.
We're not experts.
Yeah.
Hardly in anything, like barely an expert in grammology over here.
I had thought that I had a degree and was an electrician, but it turned out I have no idea how electricity works.
I just read that on the back of a cereal box at some point.
So we did a little digging. We did a little digging into this concept, and
Asked our old friend Professor Google what was going on with this one.
and I'm pretty sure we're experts now. So here's how it works. So we looked into a little bit. There's a few things you should know.
Yeah. Number one, probably not. You probably shouldn't float people during thunderstorms.
And we'll see. We'll get. Don't just give away the ending before we.
I want to, in case you don't listen further, don't do it. Don't do it. You can cut out now, but we will give an explanation.
All right. Okay. So there's a few things that if your building is built correctly into code and your float tank stuff is up to stuff in terms of the electrical stuff.
Not experts. We're not experts here.
Then there's a few things that should be going on in your building.
Yeah,
One of them is grounding.
Grounding, a big one, yep. Connecting stuff to the ground.
Yeah. So
That is literally what you're doing. You're just making a really easy path for electricity to flow through anything in your building to the ground. That's a little third prong on an outlet that looks like a mouth. If the two slits are eyes.
Yeah, the big tongue sticking out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the female end.
Yeah, the
I
female
see,
end. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the grounding prong. That's what it's called.
Yep, and that connects to, in your outlet there, a wire that actually usually connects to your building, which usually connects to a big grounding rod that's going physically into the ground. So that's why that's called the ground, that's ultimately where the electricity is passing.
Yeah, so theoretically, your devices and float tanks should have that grounding rod connecting to their outlets, and I don't think I've ever seen a float tank that doesn't. I mean, most everything does nowadays, at least here in the U.S.
Right, and most buildings should be built to code, especially if you're in an area that has thunder and lightning storms. They should be built expecting lightning to be around, which means stuff will be grounded. But that ground can break, things can go wrong, there are issues that can pop up, even if during initial construction everything was set up properly.
Yeah, there's also lightning protection that is usually code in buildings that you build into it. So they build, and this is about how much as I know about it, but they build stuff into the building, like the outside of the building that
some serious stuff too, not just
so that if
stuff.
the building were to be struck by lightning, it would be okay. So hopefully your building is lightning proof.
Yeah,
that's another part.
Wow, especially if you live in an area where there's big lightning storms, like one would hope. Which, by the way, float tanks or not, you have some serious problems potentially springing up if it's not. So that's number one. Grounding should be in place.
And lightning proofing.
And lightning, two. Yeah, that was number two.
Yeah.
Great.
Number three
is bonding. Is that what you're going to go with number three?
Yeah.
Yep. And so bonding is this idea of connecting all of your metal components that are around your rooms and your building. This is electronic or not, things that actually have electricity passing through them, or things that are not supposed to have electricity passing through them, like a metal bench in your room, for example. And you're connecting them all together with metal wire or metal pieces so that they're kind of all part of the same electrical connection. And this means that you hopefully don't have this difference in potential between something that has a higher amount of electricity passing through it than another thing, which is actually when electrocution happens. So it's this added level of safety for both you and your equipment, making sure that you're not going to cause unnecessary, difference in electricity, which will actually cause the shocks and the arcing and stuff like that you see. So this can be, I mean, it is done on a building level. You actually bond all of the giant like steel posts and stuff going through a building, like literally any metal piece of a building that's built up commercially to code and even residentially in a lot of places, I'm sure, should be bonded together.
Yeah.
And then on a
metal
smaller
framing,
scale.
the metal framing in a if you were to have metal framing.
Yeah, exactly. Like the metal, the big metal pieces,
Yeah.
going everything metal, really anything. Again, benches, internal workings of your building. Like if you have a big, what do you call that?
Float tank.
No, it wasn't float
right.
tank. What's the big metal grid that you put down when you're pouring a concrete floor?
Oh, the like tension grid?
Yeah, like a tension grid. That should actually all be bonded as well. Again, anything metal. And that goes to smaller scale things too. So your actual metallic pieces on a float tank, all the back electrical stuff, all of that should somehow be connected together to make sure that it has the same electrical potential.
Yeah, like if there's a metal piece of your filtration equipment, like an inline heater or something like that.
Yep. So bonding, again, very important. Hopefully, especially setting up in a place that has lightning storms. This has been reviewed by your electrical inspectors when they're coming through your building. Like, this is something that they should know and be paying attention to and forcing you to do.
So theoretically, if all that was kind of up to snuff and you had everything set up correctly, you actually could be in a float tank while a thunderstorm is happening. And that doesn't actually seem to be, again, as far as we can tell, not an issue. Like, there's not like a huge safety concern while you're in the float tank, unless...
And I should say there's other like layers to that protection too.
Okay.
Before you get into the unless. Sorry to cut you off there.
That's all right.
You were like so poised too.
Super ready, but I'll be ready when you're done. So,
Unless so the smaller scale is pretty much what our lovely question asker was asking about initially, which was they have GFCI in place, which theoretically, if you're actually getting a surge going through the electrical connections themselves towards the float tank, that GFCI when it when it has more amounts of electricity passing through it than it expects will shut off that connection really, really fast. And same thing, not as fast acting as that, but also another failsafe is your circuit breakers back at your breaker box, which will also turn off if there's too much current passing through them. And on a bigger scale, your actual full breaker box itself has kind of master breaker on there that will turn off if there's even more electricity than the full panel can handle. So some added layers of things where even if there is current passing through there that's more than should be, going into your float tank specifically because it's a piece of electrical equipment plugged into a wall, these are the extra protections that should kick in there too.
So yeah, theoretically floating should be safe. If your building is set up safely and correctly with all this stuff, you should be able to float during a lightning storm. And I'm going to hold on to the unless for a second. We'll get to the unless in just a moment here.
Oh, very tricky. You got them all teased there too.
So we looked up a little bit about pools because they kind of also deal with people being inside of big things of water.
Yeah.
And in an outdoor pool, you definitely do not want to be swimming in a lightning storm because the lightning could just strike the pool directly. It's a big thing of water.
Same thing in an open air float tank too.
Yeah, if you just have a float tank set up out in a field, you know who you are. Well, you shouldn't be doing that during a lightning storm. But indoor pools, if they're in a building that, like we said, all the stuff is properly done and all the pool equipment and filtration system stuff is properly grounded and bonded, being actually swimming in the pool should be fine. Like there haven't been any reported cases here in the United States of like shock or injury or death from electrocution of people being inside of indoor pools while a lightning or thunderstorm is happening. But here's where the tricky part comes in. It seems like, from what we can tell from our interneting, that there is a potential danger of being around a water source in a building, like a shower or a sink that is connected usually to a metal pipe somewhere in the system, but also the water in the system can conduct the electricity as well. And there are actually reported cases of people getting shocked or even electrocuted while showering during a lightning storm because lightning will actually move through the water line or through the metal of the piping, and while you're like that close to the metal piping fixtures of the shower, that electricity could actually get to you and give you a spark.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, it seems, and again, there's some information out there that says if you set everything up a certain way, it doesn't happen. I read a little bit about that, but a lot of what I was reading was actually people confirming that is in fact the case, and there are reported cases of it happening. Not many, and we're talking like 10 or 20 people throughout the whole year
which is like
in
a
the United
tenth of the
States.
total people struck by just general lightning. So this is a very small risk factor, but the implications are serious enough where if someone was floating in your center, gets out to shower, there's a thunderstorm going on, and they get electrocuted, like, that just sounds
And there's
awful.
just so many showers. Like you're just such a showery business as a float center. Like it seems. The other piece of advice is don't use a landline phone. Like that's the other thing that it seemed like could actually shock you, but I don't imagine that being.
So you people with your
a
landlines
huge
looking out
issue
of that big
anymore.
open field, you know who you
Like
are.
an actual wired landline telephone. If you're still using those, be careful.
Don't do that.
Just buy
during
a
an
cell
electric
phone,
storm.
probably. Yeah. Okay. You ready for the unless?
I'm ready. Yeah. Lay it on me.
Here's the unless. There are a few float tanks out there that are actually plumbed into the building. So plumbed in and connected
I didn't
to
even
the
know
water
that was what
system.
I didn't know that. I thought you were
I
going
know.
somewhere else.
Yeah, I thought I was going
You
to
got me
surprise you.
too.
with that
I'm
one.
like riveted. Go on.
So, like, this whole idea of the float tank being safe in this scenario is because it's not connected to the plumbing line or all this other stuff that would potentially lead to, that small case of being shocked. And it's people in showers, people doing laundry, and people washing dishes were other examples of it actually happening to people. But because the float tank is a self-contained unit, most of the time you would be okay. But there are a few float tanks out there that do actually plumb into the building and connect to the plumbing. And in that case, you might be in the same category as you would in the shower or the bathtub. So you probably would not want to be in the float tank in those scenarios.
Yeah, and again, this idea of everything being set up properly is also an interesting one because things that you thought were set up properly, stuff can go wrong with, even if it actually was. You could think that something's set up properly and it's not actually. You're missing some connection. Your system you thought was grounded and bonded is grounded but not fully bonded or something like that. So I don't know. It makes me nervous. Definitely if you go the direction of wanting to have your center set up so that you actually feel comfortable having people floating during a thunderstorm, then get a serious electrician to sign off on that and say that they've actually done everything to that. You consult a professional, which we are not, is basically what I'm saying here. Again,
It's the theme of this show, I think.
Well, when you're talking about death, like I don't want to be on the line for knowing what I'm talking about when it involves death.
Sir, I heard it on a podcast.
Yeah, listen to these intros and tell me these guys don't know what they're talking about. Pop goes the podcast.
So yeah, I guess be careful. Here's another thing I read was
Free advice from Ashkahn here.
just doling it out. It seems like it might actually be illegal to kick people out of your building in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
something happens and you get the floaters out, like you can't just close down shop and like kick them out into the thunderstorm and be like, good luck. It seems like that there is actually a law, at least from some random article I read, that that says you're not allowed to close like a commercial indoor facility during a lightning storm and kind of force people out of it.
And weirdly, the safest thing to do, like if an unexpected lightning storm comes up and people are floating, is to get them out of the float tanks and not let them shower. And also
sounds
to allow them
super
to stay
reasonable,
inside
yeah.
your building. Right? I mean, that is kind of the... Maybe you should have like a 5-gallon jug or something that you
Just
can...
always ready.
It's
Like
not
a
that
pull
hard. You
cord
just
that
throw
you
like
pull
little...
and it like dumps on your head.
No, you keep it like in the you don't even need it pre-filled with water, or maybe you do, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I guess the scenario is a lightning storm starts happening while
Right.
people are floating.
And you're not supposed to let him shower, but they
just
should
keep
have a way
letting
to...
him float. Just let him keep floating until it's done.
What if that's not totally safe?
Well, because they're connected in. Just don't open a float center. I mean, that's. I think that's if
No
you
one
really
wants
want
to
to be
have to
safe.
answer these kinds
if
of
you don't want
questions.
to, if you don't want to have to worry about this at all, maybe open like a hamburger joint.
But again, so much depends on just how you're even what the construction of your building was when it was
Yeah.
first made.
Well,
not
I'm
even
saying
what you did with
assuming
your float center.
this whole question is assuming everything is set up correctly. That's what I'm taking away from the way they worded
The
that.
whole question was just assuming they had GFCIs. It doesn't mention anything about bonding and grounding.
So
let's assume they had GFCIs. I'll concede that point.
yeah. So if you guys see clouds in the sky, just shut down, cancel all your appointments, close down, go home. Don't go in the shower in your house or do any dishes or anything, and that should be good.
When you see clouds, shut them down.
Yeah, that rhymes. All right.
I tried. I couldn't. What did you come up with a rhyme with cloud?
When you see clouds,
Put on a shroud. All right. If you have other questions,
probably send them somewhere else. This is
to like an actual electrician or These ones are hard for us. Yeah, just go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast is where you'll send in your own questions.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Well, that's it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks everyone for putting up with Ashkahn during that episode.